Back with the U.S. national debt topping $15 trillion. Experts, and growing, as you can see right there, experts say deep spending cuts are not only necessary, but inevitable.
But our next guest says when the government is finally forced to enact that kind of reform, we could see the same kind of anger and violence playing out in Greece and the U.K. Mallory Factor is a professor of international politics and American government at the Citadel and the founder of the Monday Meeting. Good to see you again.
Good to be here. Thank you, Gretchen.
So you wrote this article saying that it's your belief, and based on behavioral economics,
right,
that it would be better to do this in one full swoop, do all the cuts as opposed to these sort of small increments. Why?
Death by 1,000 cuts. There's going to be misery, and there's going to be civil unrest regardless anytime we make a cut. But if we make cut after cut after cut, it'll just inflame people more and more. And we will see civil unrest unlike anything we've seen in our lifetime.
Right, and we've gotten a little taste of civil unrest in Wisconsin and Ohio as well, and we see it internationally. When you look at the percentage of debt to, and there's some of it right there, stateside, when you look at the percentage of debt to GDP, the United States, right now we're at 100%. We've got a graphic we can show folks. Zimbabwe actually does a better job than us. But here's the political reality to it, Mallory, Professor, is the fact that if you went ahead and did it all at once, did a great big chop to the entitlements and the endowment effect, as you refer to it, those people aren't going to get reelected because the people out there sitting in the seats are going to say, well, I don't want any more of that. Goodbye.
Well, ultimately, you can't keep kicking the can down the road. You're not going to be able to borrow. You're going to become like Greece. You have to look at the population right now as two basic groups. You have the net tax payers and the net tax receivers, which includes governmental employees.
And that's a big number.
And that's a big, big number. And you're going to cause misery to those net tax receivers regardless. But you can't keep going like that.
But the interesting thing is, you would think that doing it in small doses would be less pain. What I'm fascinated by is your findings that it's actually the human behavior that we want it all in a big way, even though we don't know we want it that way?
Gretchen, we really don't want it in a big way. What happens is every time you make a cut, you just inflame people more and more. So you just increase the pain exponentially by doing it over and over again. It's the old pull off the Band-Aid or rip it off a little bit at a time. It's much more painful.
Which way do you do it?
I just rip it off.
Yeah, because that's
good to know.
And that's your theory with this right here. The problem is so many Americans right now are involved in what you call the endowment effect, which is,
Steve, once you get something, you don't want to give it up.
Right.
Even if you're going to get something that is of greater value, you want more and much more. You don't want to give it up. You're endowed with it. You want to keep it.
You don't want to give it up or take less.
Right. You don't.
No
Fascinating article, Mallory Factor. Thanks so much for bringing it to our